Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are very happy to have you with us tonight for our conversation with Stacy McAnulty and Kelly Yang. My name is Ashley Bryan. I am the Youth and Schools Coordinator here at Bookmarks. Bookmarks is a literary arts nonprofit and independent bookstore located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We believe in books with purpose and work to ignite a love of reading in our community, and we are just very thrilled to have everyone here with us this evening. We have a fun evening planned, but before I introduce our participants and get this started, there are a few housekeeping items we need to address. First of all, code of conduct. Bookmarks has a zero tolerance policy for harassment of any kind. That's in person and in virtual gatherings. We are committed to providing a safe, supportive, and respectful meeting environment. And anyone not adhering to this code of conduct will be removed from the event at our discretion. So everybody, let's be safe, supportive, and respectful. Following the conversation, we will have a Q&A for our authors. If you look to the right of your screen, if you're not familiar with Crowdcast, there's a chat box. You can submit your question there, or if you look at the bottom of your screen, you have the option to ask a question, and we will be answering and addressing those at the end. But following that, we will have a random drawing for anyone who is here with us tonight for a $100 Bookmarks gift certificate. So we are excited to be able to offer that to you, and best of luck to everyone here. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our main players for tonight. Moderating this event, we have Kit Ballinger, who is a youth services librarian in Washington, D.C. She creates children's podcasts, book lists for NPR's children's podcast, Wow in the World, volunteers at the Library of Congress Young Readers Center, and counsels children, families, and educational institutions to help you find your next good fit book. She is a lot of fun and has some great things in store. And our two authors, who we're super excited about, local author Stacy McAnulty is the author of many books for young readers, including The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl, The World Ends in April, and then Book Birthday Today, Millionaires for a Month. Yay, congratulations. And then also with us from across the country is Kelly Yang, the author of Front Desk, which won the 2019 Asian Pacific American Award for Literature and was chosen as a Best Book of the Year by multiple publications, and was a North Carolina Children's Book Award nominee as well. Kelly immigrated to the United States from China when she was young and grew up in California in circumstances very similar to those of Mia Tang. We're very much looking forward to the next adventures of Mia in her new book coming out September 15th, 3 Keys. So without further ado, I'm going to disappear and bring up everyone else.
We made it! Hi, everyone!
Hi!
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for Authors in Conversation through Bookmarks. We are all thrilled to be here. As Ashley mentioned, we're looking forward to spending the evening with you. We did want to point out again that this is being recorded, the conversation tonight. It will be archived until September 15th, and then you'll be able to come back and revisit this conversation through the same link that you used this evening. To that end, we're hoping that there are lots of students in the audience. I've seen a number of comments scroll through that we have some middle schoolers present. We hope that students and teachers and librarians will come back and enjoy this conversation again and again. So a lot of our talking points tonight will be geared towards middle grade readers. So without further ado, let's hand it off to Stacy and Kelly, the stars of the show. They're each going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their most recent book. Stacy, you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi guys. Again, I'm Stacy McAnulty, and I am celebrating a book birthday today. That's what authors call it when a new book comes out. It's the way it's our baby, so it's a fun day. So, Millionaires for the Month came out today. It stars two boys, Felix and Benji, who, while on a field trip to New York City, discover a wallet. They know they have to return this wallet, but before they do, they pinch $20 out of it because they're hungry and they buy some hot dogs. They return the wallet. Turns out it belongs to tech billionaire Laura Friendly. So Laura Friendly, instead of just giving them a reward for returning that wallet, she gives them a challenge because she knows they took $20 from her. They basically stole. So Laura challenges the boys to spend $5 million in 30 days. Now, there's a bunch of rules, so it's not as easy as it sounds. But that's where kind of our adventure begins. So these boys are going to see if they could blow through all of that money. And if they do, they get $10 million, so an even bigger prize. So that's very quickly about the new book.
Yay! I'm Kelly Yang. I am so honored to be here because Stacy McAnulty is one of my best friends. And I'm so excited to celebrate her new book. I am the author of Front Desk, which is about a 10-year-old Chinese-American immigrant girl who comes over to the U.S. with her parents and ends up managing the front desk of a motel while her parents clean the rooms. I'm also the author of Parachutes, which is my YA, came out in May. Also about a Chinese-American immigrant and also her host sister, Danny, she lives with, and as they navigate all sorts of murky waters in their private high school that they go to. And finally, I'm the author of Three Keys, the sequel to Front Desk, which comes out in a couple of weeks. I can't believe it's coming out in a couple of weeks. The time just sort of flew by, and you'll get to continue the adventures of Mia and her friends Lupe and Jason, their next chapter of their life as they navigate a very heated election year in California. There are some laws on the ballot that could threaten a lot of things in Mia's life, including her friends and her community. And so she has to use her voice to stand up for what's right.
Awesome. Thanks, both of you, for telling us a little bit about your books. Before we head any further, we actually wanted to poll the audience and see who is here tonight. So we're going to throw up a quick poll. If you can just take a second, if you're able, and let us know which of these groups fits you best for tonight. Ashley? All right. So if you look down just to the left of your commentary, do you see it? There's a little button down there. It says polls, and you can click on that and let us know. Stacy and Kelly, can you see the results so far?
I don't dare click it because I don't want the screen to go away. I just see polls.
We're pushing a little bit with educators and librarians, but students.
No millionaires, really? And no Mr. Yao.
So far, no 7th grade millionaires and no motel owners.
This is so cool. I can see it in real time.
This is neat.
Oh, we have a lot of kids. We have a lot of students and a lot of educators and librarians.
Nice.
Yes.
And it's possible that our friends who are here tonight might be wearing more than one of those hats at a time. And thinking about that, I think about the two of you who are both incredibly accomplished authors, but also professionally very successful in realms outside of Kidlit. Can you talk a little bit about your backgrounds, your other professional lives and hats that you wear, and how that influences your life as a writer?
Stacy, you go first.
You need to call on someone, Kit. We're going to stare at you.
Stacy, could you let us know?
So my background is mechanical engineering. So I went to University of Buffalo and I studied mechanical engineering. So I tell my young readers, I actually didn't take a language arts class in college for a grade. I didn't take an English class in college for a grade because I was taking all those STEM classes that are so popular now. So I don't have a literature background at all. And I worked for years designing first-class airline seats, which sounds really fun. If you think about flying first-class airline seats, which I've never done. So that was my profession. And what I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, how could you be an engineer and how could you be a writer? It's so different. And I really don't think they are. What attracted me to both of them is they both require creativity and they both require problem solving. There's some different background you need. You need to be better at grammar for one and calculus at another. But if you're a creative person, if you're a problem solver, I think either of these careers are, totally in your realm of possibility.
And Kelly?
That is so true. And I was going to say that my mother would have loved you. She was an engineer and she loved math. And you know what? Actually, it's funny because, Mia in the story, she hates math. In real life, I really like math too, and I think that having that problem solving, that mechanical way of looking at things, that engineering way of looking at things, especially for building a story, was actually really, really helpful. So I ended up going to law school, and I did not become a lawyer. There's a long story of why I didn't become a lawyer, and if you want to read about it, you can read Parachutes because it'll give you some sort of hint. I had sort of a bad experience in law school, and it just sort of disillusioned me from the legal profession. Didn't really want to do it after that. But I always loved writing, and that was the thing that took me to law school in the first place. So I decided that I was going to teach kids writing. And that's what I did for 15 years before I became a novelist full-time. I ran a program in Hong Kong called the Kelly Yang Project. And my goal was to get every kid writing, get every kid debating, using their voice, finding their voice, making sure that they become more powerful speakers and writers. And that has really helped me in writing books because those 15 years in the classroom and seeing how kids interact and seeing how kids think about the world, it's really been instrumental. Like, I don't think I could be the writer that I am without that experience, because I love that authenticity of the classroom and bring that into the books. And so you'll always see like really hilarious like classroom scenes in my stories, because you know what, most of the time those things have actually happened, believe it or not. Like, it really was like that in the classroom, as educators who are listening will tell you. And I thought it was a really great segue to becoming an author.
And Kelly, you make such a great point in talking about channeling that experience and channeling the classroom voice. Both of you really do an incredible job at taking you back to middle school if you're no longer there. And I think really your voices resonate very clearly as these like true middle school voices. What do you do to put yourself back in that mindset? How do you channel your characters? Do you listen to music, or are there certain activities that you do? Kelly, how do you keep yourself in that classroom all these years later?
It's a good question. I think I never advanced past 10 years old.
Emotional maturity of 12 right there.
Right. But also I have 3 kids. And so now they're 13, 10, and 7. But when I was writing for at the front desk, my oldest was 8. So I am constantly living in that middle grade world. In fact, it was probably harder for me to write YA. But living in the middle grade world, living, with middle graders, it wasn't that hard to go into that voice. And I've been with Mia for so long now that that's always just really, it's like home for me. Like I could live in that time period with those characters in that motel probably forever. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to switch gears. Like I found that to be challenging when I was writing Parachutes, and sometimes I'd have to write, especially Parachutes, because it came out so recently, and 3 Keys is coming out very soon. So those 2 books were on the same like editorial trajectory, which meant that I was constantly editing one and then editing the other, right back and forth, back to back. And sometimes I felt like I was going a little crazy because it was just too much.
Your brain's pulled in all these directions.
It was just too much. And I remember I had to like email my editor once and say, I need to get this to you a week later because I'm still in Mia's voice. I was just stuck. But yeah.
And Stacy, what about you? I mean, two middle school, so you've got 7th grade boys are the voices that you're channeling for this one. And they're living the high life for a lot of the story. So how did you get yourself in the right mindset for that?
Well, it takes a little while for me to get to know the characters, and then once I know them, they kind of live with me. I'm thinking about them the way I think about my kids. I'm also the mom of 3, like Kelly. Mine are a little bit older, so they're 18, 16, and 12. And when my characters kind of are alive, when I'm really in the story, they're so in my head. Like, one, I mumble to them. My kids make fun of me because I'll walk around the grocery store or around the house. I'm like, I'm hearing them. But also, like, if I go to Target, and I remember this, I went to Target and I saw a shirt that had stripes on it. And this was when I was doing Lightning Girl. I'm like, oh, Lucy would love this shirt. I mean, they're so with me that I'm like ready to buy them stuff at Target. So once I get to that point and I don't know what gets me to that point. I'm not sure. I'm about to start a new middle grade project. And I told my agent and my editor, I was like, they've started talking to me. And we're all so excited because that has to happen first before I can, bring them. And then, they'll join my family, and I'll think about like what part of this dinner they would eat and what time they'd go to bed. They come alive.
And Stacy, is it any different for you when you're writing a single protagonist versus, in this case, you had 2 protagonists that alternated chapters in Millionaires, and Kelly, you really carried Mia's voice as the connecting thread throughout. So Stacy, for you, having 2 heads in your voices at once, how does that?
Oh, Kelly and I have talked about this because in her book Parachute, she's got dual narrative also, and we're like, it's so hard, never doing it again. I think we both like sworn it out. It is hard because you get to know them, and like I said, you're carrying them around, and so that I have 2 of them talking and worrying about them and bringing them. It is. I found it harder. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again, but it takes more muscle. It takes more muscle to get them there.
Definitely. I think so. I mean, I think for me, the hard part was editing, because when you're editing a story, and I'm a pretty, serious reviser. I love revision so much. But I love to like throw out things and completely, tear things apart and just, reverse engineer. I just do all sorts of crazy things in revision. But when you have 2 people, then you have to make sure you're sort of revising like 2 books basically. And if you multiply that by like 3 times, when you have like certain stages of edits, you're really revising like 6 books or, even more. And yeah, it can be a lot.
So Kelly, you mentioned Parachutes, which came out earlier this year, and how that was on the same editorial track. Stacy, this is book 25 for you. Is that right?
I think so. Yep.
Congratulations. And your 3rd middle grade, a lot of picture books coming behind that. Can you all talk a little bit about the differences in writing for these different age groups and in these different formats? I mean, Stacy, pluses and minuses and roses and thorns, I guess, of doing each of these styles. And Kelly, I'd love to hear from you after that.
Yeah, it's well, for the middle grade, I think that when I'm writing middle grade, I can go back to that time pretty clearly. That, kind of late 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, some 8th grade. I can remember those years. I can remember being stressed out. I can remember friendships breaking up. I can remember worrying about what I wore, saying the wrong thing. I can remember so many of those feelings. So when I'm writing middle grade, I can draw on that. When I'm writing picture books, I'm remembering it more as a mom, like reading books to my kids. Like, what is it like to hold them, and where are the page turns, and holding, seeing the pictures. So I think I'm drawing on different parts of my person when I am creating those. Of course, picture books are much shorter, and I can usually write those faster than a middle grade. But I feel like a middle grade for me is much more personal, because I'm going back to 10, 11, 12-year-old Stacy.
Yeah, for me, I think my heart is in middle grade. I love the challenge of YA, because I think that because the kids are older, they are more aware of all of the different family dynamics or all the different subtleties in life, and also they're more jaded. But there's something about middle grade, which is just like you're so innocent still, but you're seeing all these things, and it's just you're not sure how to process them, but you're still like full of youthful joy. That I love middle grade, and like I feel so good after I write a middle grade book. Like I actually am like my heart feels, it's glowing. Like I love it. I love YA too, but it's just a different challenge. I think I'm drawn to the, because I'm very much a family writer and a character writer. Like I love complicated families, complicated family dynamics, all of that. And because those are so heightened in YA, because the characters are older, there's more I could do with them. And that's always like so delicious and fun. But my heart is just absolutely glowing after I write middle grade.
Kelly, I love what you said there about the innocence of middle grade characters and as an extension about readers. But at the same time, I think you both have this incredible gift with touching on challenging topics in a way that doesn't deny the reader their innocence or their curiosity or their desire to make change and understand the world around them. How do you think you can strike that balance for this age range? The tough topics at this age level.
Stacy, how do you do it?
You don't want to go first?
You go first.
I go first. Okay.
Well, is that a sign of a good question or a bad question?
It is. It's a great question. So looking at these two, looking at Millionaires and Three Keys and Front Desk, both of these deal with money, which can some people consider a tough topic for kids or a topic we don't talk about in front of the kids. And there's a lot of other tough topics, especially in Three Keys with the governor's race and the laws. But looking just at the money part of it. So the way I come at it is what concerns kids and what interests them. So my book is, silly in that, they're spending $5 million. But I wanted, what are kids, what are 12-year-olds aware of with money? So like I ignored taxes altogether. I'm like, I'm not going there with taxes, like what they would have to pay if they were given $5 million. I'm like, they don't care. They're not concerned. They don't need to know that now. But I didn't shy away from Felix and his family, they struggle to make rent. His mom's, on payday, they can go to McDonald's. The rest of the time they can't. The money is dwindling down. So I wanted to address those kind of things with money. Like, Felix can't get new shoes when Benji can. So, are they going to treat this $5 million differently? So I wanted to look at it like what kids would know, what they'd be concerned about, what they'd be interested in. So that's the way I took the money role in this book.
And I love that. I love that about Stacy's book. The thing about Stacy's books that I love, if I can just gush a little bit, is how entertaining they are. And, as parents, our number one goal is get the kid to finish the darn book. That's our goal. And it doesn't matter how important the issues are. If they don't finish it, you just have that feeling of now, you didn't finish it. Like you didn't get the whole meal, you didn't finish the meal. And what I think Stacy does such a great job of is just writing a really entertaining, good story that kids are going to read. They're going to read it themselves. You don't have to force them to read it. They're going to want to finish it. And I try for that as well in my stories as well. It's just every day I sit at the computer.
And you succeed wildly. Nobody's putting down your books.
I sit at my computer and my goal is just very simple. Get the kid to turn the page. Every sentence has to just get them to keep reading, to turn the page. And that is my goal. And if I've delivered on that goal, then I feel like I've succeeded. And all the issues are things that I think are really reflective of the world that I live in, that I grew up in. They're just issues that I think are essential to have in stories. If we cut out some of the stuff about money, these are real conversations that kids are having.
Right.
Even if they're not having them with us as the parents, they're having it amongst themselves. They're having it in their own head.
I was thinking the same thing, that internal, the observing the differences between themselves and their peers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, like my son is like constantly like going to a store and saying, oh no, I'll get that later because it's maybe cheaper on Amazon. And I have to be like, we don't have to freaking support Amazon all the time, okay? But the fact that he's aware of it and he's thinking about it and he's making these like decisions in his head, obviously they are thinking about money. They're thinking about it big time in this pandemic. We're all hurting. So I just wanted to say that it's so important as creators that we remember that, these are conversations that kids already are having. We don't have to shy away from them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's writing a good story that kids will want to read.
And I love that you both do that and you tackle these issues like you've talked about, and yet everything is centered with humor and heart. Just totally compelling. Both of your books are the kind you want to sit down and read in one sitting. So I'm going to pivot just a little bit and ask a curiosity question. One of the things I love finding in books is like a little secret, a tidbit that maybe you found that was a reference to the book that came before it, or to something that you know about the author or the world around them. So Stacy, did you hide any Easter eggs in Millionaires for the Month?
Well, this one, I did it in the names. So a lot of the names in here have like a Broadway root. So, so we know we have Felix Reynolds. That's a hard one. Reynolds, I guess. That's a harder one. My daughters get it. Andy, they call him Andy Randy, but Andrew Reynolds, who was in Book of Mormons. And then I've got Benji Porter. What's the last name Porter there? There's Alma Miranda. That should be an easy one. Miranda, somebody who wrote Hamilton. So I infused, the teacher's Mrs. Chenoweth. So we've got Kristen Chenoweth.
That one I got.
Yeah, so I love Broadway. There's not a lot of other Broadway references in here. There's one to the musical Shrek. But I just decided I wanted to, put some Broadway in the book because it's something that I like. So I snuck those in there. And plus coming up with names can be hard sometimes. Like I have the first names, but the last names I was struggling.
That's
I know. I struggle with coming up with names. I almost always have like babynames.com or something open up.
Really?
Yeah, because I have
baby name books I used for my kids. They're on my bookshelf over here.
That's so funny. But I usually try to put my dog Cody in here. He's in like almost all these books that he's in this one. He's going to be in another one later. You'll see Cody as a dog usually pretty much in every book, as long as he's alive. But the other thing that I did, which I thought was really important to me, was I put the name of the Asian supermarket here in California. I don't know if they're actually, they might have expanded beyond California, but it was like this big Asian supermarket called 99 Ranch that I went to as a kid. And I remember like when it opened, my parents were just like, oh, finally an Asian supermarket with like bok choy or whatever. And they've expanded a lot, but they're not, you never hear them in any like movies or TV shows or books or anything. So I put them in here.
That is excellent. And now your readers will know. It's like a little secret between you and I.
Yeah.
So I am a huge fan of back matter in books, the reference points that come at the end. That is usually seen in nonfiction. You each, as middle grade fiction writers, had back matter in this book. And I will say I've never seen a baby names book show up as something listed in the bibliography, but now I'll know that's possibly there for reference. Can you talk a little bit about the back matter that you included in your book, Stacy first, and then Kelly, and why you included that there?
So all three of my novels have had back matter in them. I love doing research. When you're researching, you don't have to write. So when the writing's hard, just do research, and then you're still working. So I get into the research. In this one, it's the math. So we dive into the math, because the reason why they're spending $5 million, and it's not just 5 million. Let's see if I get the digits wrong sometimes. It's $5,368,709.12. But you know why that number is important? It's because it's a penny doubled every day for 30 days. That's what they get in an argument with the tech billionaire Laura Friendly. They're like, we took $20 from you. That's like a penny. And she's like, a penny has value. If you doubled it every day for 30 days, that's what you'd have. So that's where the 5 million comes from. And so I proved that to you in the back of the book, the penny doubled. I also talk about interest. So when they're hiring a driver, they pay him 10% more each day, which you might think 10%, that's not much. I mean, we tip 15 or 20%, so 10%, not much, but every day tipping 10%, what's that going to look like? So I like to show some of the math. So I talk about it in the book, but I like that I had the opportunity to showcase it in the back. So this one, my back matter is math.
Love
That's
it.
great. I love it. So for Three Keys, because it's such a historic election, it was an election that I lived through, and I also researched as a college student. I did a lot of work around 1994 election, because one of my professors was actually Pete Wilson's campaign manager, one of his top strategists. And he was, I remember that campaign so vividly in my mind because they had this big Proposition 187, which basically just scapegoated immigrants. And there were these horrible ads, and I remember growing up with this stuff. And I remember how it, for the first time ever, it made it okay for the other kids to openly speculate about our immigration statuses, which was kind of traumatizing as a kid, walking into school and hearing people say, oh, is she undocumented? Is she undocumented? And it was just a pretty horrible few years, a year, really. It was a pretty horrible year. Anyway, so I wanted to write about that experience and capture all of it. And because it's revealed that Lupe is undocumented in the book, and Mia has to really learn to be an ally. So Three Keys is about the 3 keys of friendship and the 3 keys of allyship. And really, how do you step up, and how do you help, and how do you stand up for what's right? I then went and spent a lot of time with all sorts of families in the Central Valley in California, because Lupe's parents were migrant farm workers initially. That's how they came over. So I went to the Central Valley, and I actually picked grapes for a whole week. Anyway, it was really hard. My fingers were just bleeding. It was really, really bad. Because they have all this, all the chemicals, and you wouldn't believe the conditions. And that's the thing. It's people talk about immigration, but they never really go and see it for their, with their own eyes. Some of the circumstances that people are living in, and they're just struggling, hardworking people, just trying to make, a better life for themselves and for their kids. And I talked to their kids, and the kids were amazing. These amazing girls who got into really good universities, but they didn't necessarily qualify for financial aid, and the whole Dreamers program was sort of in limbo, and they weren't sure what was going to happen. A lot of families were really affected by this that I talked to, and then I went and talked to on the legal side the Asian Law Caucus, which represents a lot of immigrants facing deportation. Talk to the lawyers about, Lupe's case, Lupe's dad's case, legally what would happen, do they have a chance? Could they make an argument for a chance to stay? How would that work? And finally went to immigration jail, which was the most heartbreaking, intense experience of my life. One of the most intense experience, certainly writing this book. It was so incredible going to that jail facility, and these are people facing deportation, and you walk in and there are these glass visiting centers, visiting rooms, and they're really small with just glass, but then you see the wall, and there are all these kids' messages etched into the wall, come home mommy, or I miss you daddy, or you're still number one daddy. It's just it gutted me as a parent, as just an immigrant. It was really, I'm going to start tearing up. It was pretty incredible. So I put all of that research into the book because, there's a responsibility as an author. if you're going to write something, that you do it authentically and get it right, because people's lives are at stake. It's a really important matter, like immigration and how we're perceived. So I put a lot of time into that, and like Stacy said, research can be fun. It was hard. It was really hard,
and obviously very heartbreaking. That's It's such a good scene in the book when they go to visit.
Well, I understand that the two of you talk just about every day. Is that right?
Yes. Stacy and I belong to a debut group together.
Sorry?
And we belong to a debut group together. We both debuted in 2018, although Stacy's been writing, picture books and all sorts of books forever. But you were part of the 2018
It's first novel, yep.
Yeah. And I don't know, we just somehow found each other, and we're both, pretty type A.
Well, I was thinking about the fact that friendship is such a strong theme in both of these books that you all are talking about tonight. And obviously such an important relationship between the two of you that brought you here tonight. So I was hoping that we could play a little game. The game has lots of different names. Two truths and a lie is the most common. Two facts and a fib. We can call it two realsies and a whopper, whatever you feel like calling it. But just to let the audience know, I have asked Stacy and Kelly to come up with two things that are true, two facts that are true, and one fact that they've made up to try to stump the other tonight. We're going to test the obscure facts of their friendship. And then we're going to throw these up as another poll for y'all so that the audience can weigh in too. So, Stacy, can you stump Kelly?
Okay. I wrote mine down, Kelly.
Oh, wow. Okay. I wrote it down on my phone.
Okay. Number one, or letter A. Oh, there, I'm too wide. One. Okay. In middle school, I was supposed to go to space camp, but the bus broke down within an hour of traveling from Albany. And then the chaperone, the science teacher, got sick. Like the kind of sick where you need a toilet every 2 minutes. So we turned around and I never went to space camp.
Oh, wow.
Number two. The first time my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, came to my apartment, he was horrified to find a bagel in my printer. In my defense, I'd been writing at my computer and had no place to put down my breakfast, so I put it in the printer tray. And number three. One day on my way to work, I found a stray dog in the parking lot. I decided to rescue that dog, and that meant taking the morning off and going to the vet and the groomer because this dog was filled with ticks. And then the dog was later on adopted by a coworker and named Lucas.
Ooh.
Okay. So, my friends and Kelly, if you go back down to the poll, here's your chance to chime in. Do you think that statement 1 was the fake one, statement 2 was the fib, or statement 3? And Kelly, I don't know if you should look at the polls before you.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the poll so I don't look at it.
I'm not sure they're going to help you. It's kind of a push.
Oh, I'm gonna look. So it was space camp, the husband with the bagel,
Camp,
and
the bagel in the printer, and the dog.
I can't believe how good your two truths and a lie are. Now I'm trying to edit mine in my head. You've out-truthed me. Okay. So did everybody vote?
I think people have weighed in.
I'm like torn because I believe the boyfriend one. So that's gonna be one of my. I think that one's true. I think that Stacy's trying to trick us with the dog one because we all know how much she loves dogs.
Does love dogs,
right? So I think she's trying to stump us there. So I'm gonna go with the dog story.
That was a good guess. It was the space camp. I always wanted to go to space camp. We didn't have the funds to do that, so I made up that story. I think the audience got it right. I think the poll was right. And fun fact, that dog, Lucas, that was adopted, Max, who was named in the book, and Sam, who just popped up, that was their dog. So That was
Hey,
Mark, who is Sam's husband and Max's dad. And so our town is like this big sometimes. So it's like we're all.
Oh, that just brings it all back together. Okay, Kelly.
Okay.
Can you stump Stacy? We're going to clear out the poll and give you a chance to give us your three statements.
Okay, let me think. Okay, so the statement one is one time I was taking my kids to Six Flags, and they said that my younger son was supposed to be counted as an adult, even though he was only like 9, or I think he might have been like 8 or something. And then they refused to count him as a child because he was too tall. They wanted to count him as an adult. And I said, is there any way we can get a discount for any affiliations or any reasons or anything? And they said the only discount I could get is if I went and got a Coca-Cola can, because they were having some sort of promotion with Coca-Cola, and bring it back. But we had already parked, and you already paid for like parking and stuff, so it defeats the purpose of the Coca-Cola can if I had to go out and go to the grocery store. So I went to the nearest trash can, and I found a Coca-Cola can and brought it back. My kids were horrified, but I got the discount.
Yay, discount.
Okay, second one is I don't eat any cheese except for cheese that's on pizza. That's the only cheese I will eat. And then the third one is I was very good at baking cookies at one point, to the point where I almost decided to become a baker instead of becoming a writer.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right. We have statement one, which is our penny saved with the Coke can. I love that kind of ties in here tonight.
Did you like that one? I did.
That was way to get that in there. We have statement two, which is no cheese except for on your pizza. And we have statement three, that among Kelly's many, many talents, she is apparently also a baker extraordinaire. So we're going to give the audience a chance. Let's see. Can we throw the polls back up? Okay, the poll is back up. Stacy, I'm going to leave it up to you as to whether you want to check the poll or not.
I won't.
Okay, we're going to give everybody a chance to get their votes in.
This is hard.
Okay. All right, I think the audience has had a chance to vote. And now, Stacy, what's your guess? Do you think it's statement 1, 2, or 3?
Well, statement 1 was the longer one, so it felt real.
Specificity.
There was so many details. And then I'm trying to, as much as Kelly and I are friends, we've only met once in real life. And then we're supposed to like a couple times this year, but pandemic. So we've never had a meal together. So that would be.
We never had a meal together.
No, we got to see each other. And then it was like, I got to go here and you got to go there.
I'm going to come serve you both pizza.
Yeah. I love pizza. And
and then the third one in the book with Jason cooking, there's so much cooking. So I was like, oh, and that feels so real. But I'm going to go with the cooking one. I'm going to go with
it's the cheese one. I eat cheese. I don't really like cheese that much, but I'll eat it on as long as it's I actually prefer it to be heated. So if it's melted on pizza or if it's been part of the pasta, I just don't like sprinkling extra cheese on top. So it's the cheese. I am a really good baker. I bake good cookies.
That I will say that's a very type A consistent baking. And really, people who are very attentive to the measurements and the specificity of baking, and lawyers and all of these.
If I recall correctly, you're a huge baker. Check out Instagram. It's books.
So I actually went. I went to culinary school before I went to law school. So Kelly, no one here.
Oh my God, we should be asking you these questions.
I will say I had friends who were watching tonight, texting, saying, "Wait a minute, are you and Kelly?"
We need to do cooking with Kit.
There you go. Put that in your next book.
Do a virtual live, and we'll all go to that.
Oh, that's terrifying. That sounds like a horrible idea.
Oh,
But
I love
it's a pandemic, right? We all try something new and different. Well, so you did mention pandemic, and I do want to say I caught one of the questions that scrolled up. We're going to get to questions shortly. We're kind of wrapping up, but I did just want to touch on the glaringly obvious place where we find ourselves, which is that you all are writing and editing and releasing books and publicizing them in the midst of absolute global chaos on many, many levels. And I just was hoping you could each touch briefly on how you've pivoted maybe to try to accommodate some of the change in circumstances, and maybe new platforms that you're learning or using or trying, or directions you're headed in. Stacy, can you touch on that before we head to questions?
So it's been a change for everyone, and authors are among that group. And so I used to visit a lot of schools. I was gone, some months like three weeks out of the month. So now I've turned to YouTube, and I'm making lots of YouTube videos. I've done videos with Kelly on Instagram about writing. So doing more of that, and just trying to stay connected with readers, because I think it's important and it's fun. So I'm using some videos to try to stay connected with my young readers.
Yeah. It's hard, writing is something that takes a lot out of you, and we require peace and quiet to do it. And we now, I'm sheltering in place with my kids doing, digital learning, virtual learning. So it's been really tough to find that space to be creative. But the other good thing about it is that we don't have to go anywhere. So where we would normally be on tour, I was supposed to go on, a pretty big tour for Parachutes, and a even bigger tour for Three Keys. So I get to skip out on all of that and just do it virtually. It's been really hard. It's really, really hard. And I think especially my heart goes out to debut authors. Mm-hmm. That is just, I don't even know what to do. So we've been trying to promote. I've had a lot of people doing virtual events with me, and it's really hard time right now for creators, for bookstores, so whenever possible, please shop indie, support your local indie bookstores. We got to get through this together, support authors. It's just a really hard time right now.
Kelly, you mentioned debut authors and our indie bookstores. Is there anything you've read lately that you really loved, that you're excited to talk about and share?
Well, I'm really excited for Punching the Air. I think it came out today, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am super excited about that book. There's just been a lot of great YA that's come out, and certainly in the middle grade world as well. I think Remy Lai has a new book coming out, Fly on the Wall. I think it's coming out in a couple weeks, right?
I think it's next week. I think she's...
Yeah, Aida Salazar is my dear friend here in the Bay Area, Land of the Cranes. So just a ton of really great books.
Awesome. And Stacy, what about you? What have you read lately?
I'm gonna do this one, but I'm gonna be mean because you can't get it until January. So it's Take Back the Block by Crystal Giles. She's a North Carolina. She's a North Carolina author, and I blurbed this book as well, so I got to read it real early, which is amazing. But kind of about the gentrification of some neighborhoods, and it's authentic, and it's funny and heartfelt, and it's just all those things that you want in a middle grade book. But it's not out till January, so I'm sorry. I get things early sometimes.
But that's put it on the list. You've been a great proponent of pre-orders. You had a whole Twitter thread on that that opened my eyes a lot to the importance of pre-orders. So that's good to know that one's coming. So thank you. I guess, just to wrap up, let's circle back to your fabulous books. Stacy, what do you hope people will take away from reading Millionaires?
So takeaway. Well, as Kelly kind of said before, one, I just hope they enjoy it. The first thing is to entertain. It is escapism. Sometimes life is tough. So if you can get absorbed in the story, I'll feel most of my job is done. And I just hope that readers can relate to the characters, maybe more to one character than the other, and they just can see a little bit of their world in this fictitious world.
Yeah, definitely.
And Kelly,
for me, it's just, opening your eyes to the immigrant experience and seeing that, we're not that different. We have hopes and dreams, and just having a little bit more empathy heading into this election and seeing how elections work, seeing how sometimes issues are used to drive a wedge and scapegoat. And most importantly, I just want people to use their voice, and stand up for what's right. If you see somebody who is getting harassed or hurt, or somebody saying something online, virtually to your friend, there's been a lot of online harassment, and I think that it's really important for kids to find that courage to do something about it. We don't have to just take it.
Well, I had a chance to just take a look at a few of the questions, and your kids came up in more than one. Knowing that the future is in the next generation's hands, we had some questions as to whether your kids have read your books, and how they feel about your books, and whether they give you feedback on them. So you each have 3 readers at home. What is it like having the first round editorial process go through blood relatives? Stacy? I know I remember some math help for you on the first round.
Yeah, my daughter, again, they're outside the middle grade reading now, but they still read it. They like to know what I'm working on. They've actually gotten involved with some of the outlining stages. I'll bounce ideas off of them, and they'll read a lot of what I do. And they still love reading picture books too. My son is 12 years old, 7th grade. He's a bit different in that he won't read on the computer, and he wants it to be bound. Like, he doesn't read it until it's bound. So I've taken things to Staples and got them bound, just because I'm like, I need you to read this before I hand it in. You're like my audience, man. Read it for me. So a little bit. So he will read it, but he's not the way the girls are. Like, they're looking over my shoulder. He'll do it, but he doesn't want to deal with pages, and he doesn't want to read on a screen. So
sounds like a typical kid. I am very lucky in that my oldest son, Elliot, loves Front Desk. So he was dying to read Three Keys, and he's always a huge proponent. He calls himself the original Front Desk fan because I wrote it for him originally. I originally wrote it as a way to tell him the way I grew up. And so it was something that we did together. I would write a chapter a day. He would read it with me. And so it was it was part of our bond, mother-son bond. So he loves Three Keys, but my kids have not read Parachutes because it's a YA, it's solidly YA. But I'm excited for them to read it. And they do give me editorial comments, actually. And sometimes their editorial comments are really helpful. They'll be like, I think you should speed up this part. Or I think that, this part was a little boring and I lost attention here.
They're good at finding the boring parts. That's yeah. No one can find a boring part like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds terrific. Is there anything else that either of you would like to share about your book or being here tonight or life in general?
No, just, go out and get it. I think Stacy's book is available at all the major bookstores, and she's, we really need your support. So please go out and order her books.
Yeah. Kelly's book comes out in 2 weeks. So like I said, you can pre-order that now, and you'll have it for, the day it comes out, which is awesome.
Okay,
yeah, I think Bookmarks has autographed copies of both of our books, right?
I was actually just going to point out that it's in the comments section on the side. You can find a hot link to a bundle. That's a book bundle that has both of your books that come together. And I know Stacy was doing some signing of books at Bookmarks. I don't know if you left some book plates or anything with that, or if those are available, but Kelly's can be pre-ordered and Stacy's can be autographed through Bookmarks. So support Bookmarks. We appreciate them having us here tonight. And we want to bring Ashley back because she is going to help facilitate the giveaway of a huge gift certificate where you can get lots of books from Bookmarks. So hi, Ashley.
Hello, thank you so much. This was all wonderful. Yes, so you can purchase books from Bookmarks. We have the website is in the chat, and we will send a follow-up email with how to pre-order Kelly's book as well. But our giveaway, thanks to my wheel of names, our $100 Bookmarks gift card winner is Candy Lavender. So congratulations to Candy.
Candy, are you dropping your...
So yes, we will send you that, Candy. And oh, I'm glad we had a friend join you.
They were quiet the whole time. I've got 3 of them, so this is pretty good.
Wow, that's like the only kind of bombing of an event that we want to see. So that's
Thank you so much, everyone. This was wonderful, and thank you to everyone who joined us. We hope that you will join us some more for some future Bookmarks events, and we look forward to seeing everyone again. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Kelly.
thanks,
Good night.
guys.
Congratulations, Stacy.
Thanks, Kelly.
Happy birthday.
Happy book birthday.
Happy birthday.
I appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Bye.